Hola and welcome to Astrolunachic's Guide to the Universe. I am Susan, aka Astro Lunachick. And happy holidays to everyone. I am, I guess I'm slacking this holiday season. My report last week was late too. But yeah, I apologize for that. So I'll quickly go over from Sunday to today, which is Wednesday, December 27th, a few days away from 2024. It is a Wednesday. It is a 1 day in our numerology. So yesterday was our 9, the ending, and today is the 1. And so it goes. So where are we at? Let's see. As you guys know, little station identification, Astro Lunatic's Guide to the Universe. And you can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, in that particular order of my favorites, my favorite places to be. And where you can find me also is Rumble. I have a backup Rumble channel. Hmm. And actually, I think I only have one video over there, something that I felt might be censored on YouTube. I migrated it over to my Rumble channel, and it's just a little thing I did on the constellation of Aquila the Eagle. And so if you want to go over there and check that out, you will find that on Rumble. It is still up on YouTube, but it's weird because I actually got views taken away. Like, how does that happen? I think I got up to 10 views and then all of a sudden I look and I'm up down to five views. So what does that tell you? I hit a nerve, I guess. Um, but it's an interesting video. So go over, check that out. And while you're there, you can subscribe to my Rumble channel because that's where my naughty stuff will go. Anyway, what else do we have going on here? Yeah, you can look at the description box to this video and you will see a link there for my Gilded channel, which is a chat thing like Discord. Um, go over there, ask some questions, and I usually post my updates for things, reports that I post for like the weekly stuff like that, special projects, etc. So you could check that out. There's not too many people over there, maybe about 10 or 11. So let's get the party started. Get yourself over there. Again, link is always in the description. It's the invite to the Gilded Chat. What else do we have going on that I need to tell you guys? Oh, yeah, my Substack letter, please subscribe. I will be updating that in the coming year. Yeah, I'm pledging myself to be more organized in the upcoming year. So letting you guys know all of the places where you can keep up with me. It might not look like there's much activity there, but that's my network. So anyway, and if you are interested in booking a reading, I'm still running a holiday special. It's 25% off my normal hourly fee. And you can reach me, inquire about booking a reading by sending me an email at astrolunachick@gmail.com, or you can reach me on the Astro Lunatic hotline, which is 914-222-1231. You can call up, leave a message. You could text me. I might even answer the phone. Maybe. I'm not much of a phone person. I screen, I'm a screener, but that's fine. You can leave a message or text, let me know what you're looking for, and I will get back to you. We'll have a little convo and get you set up for a reading. So, okay, I think that's it for the announcements. Anywho, so we are here on Wednesday, but I will reverse back to December 25th, Sunday, where we left off last week in the last episode of As the Cosmos Turns. Yes, very, very exciting, exciting days, exciting aspects. So on Christmas Day, we had a Gemini moon. And so the moon, let's say the moon was opposed to Mars and opposed to the Mercury retrograde. So very busy, very active, lots of communication, pretty good energy. I mean, um, looks really great to me. Sextile, the moon sextile to the North Node in Aries, trine to the South Node in Libra. Yeah, I mean, very fiery, passionate, active, inspiring kind of energy. So, Gemini moon is definitely chatty and active and, so traveling um might have been a little bit of a snag for some people because Mercury being retrograde is always a challenge, but I think really looking at this looks more like a challenge for international travel. And as the square from Mercury retrograde to Neptune in Pisces, that definitely could be some, communication snafus, booking, just travel hiccups, all the different kinds of things that you could encounter probably later in the day into the 26th. This would be a growing kind of an influence because Mercury going backwards is approaching. So the square to Neptune is becoming more exact from the 25th into the 26th into the 27th. And it's a challenge. I remember looking at this a while back and talking about it actually on one of the shows that I was interviewed on Nish's show on the Cosmic Salon. And you can find that on Spotify. I don't know if I talked about it in the first hour, the public part of the show, but I do remember that conversation with Nish and saying, that I didn't really see Christmas Eve and Christmas Day as being too intense. Like the aspects looked okay. There was a little bit of a travel thing going on because Moon and Gemini and opposing Mars and opposing Mercury and Mars coming into an exact conjunction around the like closer and closer as we're approaching the 27th and squaring Neptune. Um, and that would start on the 25th. And the real intense period would be getting closer to the 26th into the 27th and the 28th. So this would be the building conjunction between Mars and Mercury. Mars was starting to go out of bounds at this time. Mercury is retrograde, square to Neptune. And that's a real confusing energy. So we are dealing with that all this week because right now, as I'm recording this on the 27th, um, that conjunction between Mars and Mercury is exact, and then getting closer and closer and squaring to Neptune. So what does that mean? All right, anytime you have a square to Neptune, I would look at confusion, fog, the potential for being deceived, um, even really like your communication and your action, that's Mercury and Mars, are uh subject to not being correct or not hitting the mark. So miscommunication, uh misguided action. Now, the other thing about this is that Mars, like I said, or I've been talking about, Mars is going out of bounds. So that's declination. So think of it as the planets going across the sky from east to west. That's how they travel through the degree of the zodiac. Okay. But when you're looking at them in the sky, let's say in the night sky, specifically the moon goes out of bounds twice a month. So right now, around the new moon and the full moon, the moon is going out of bounds just because of where the full and the new moon occurs in the zodiac, and the out of bounds section where the section where the moon is going out of bounds just happens to be between Gemini and Leo. So we had out of bounds full moon last month, out of bounds full moon this month, and we will have, I believe, an out of bounds full moon next month. So out of bounds just means like the energy is very intensified. The planet is not acting within its normal range of function. It's like super extra. So let's say the moon is super moody, super emotional, for good or, for negative. Like it doesn't matter necessarily. It depends on the aspects to the person's chart, what is triggering, but let's just say, the communication and the ideas and the information is just a lot. It's a lot to take on. It's very active. The mind is taking in a lot of information, and in our communications, we're speaking. Um, we're more likely to say things that we wouldn't normally say, or it's just extra, like I was saying. But so, but that means also the moon being in Gemini, the 25th and the 26th, until it goes into Cancer on the 26th, and then we're at the full moon. But leading up to the full moon, it's a lot of busy, a lot of travel, because Gemini, the moon in Gemini, is also associated with travel because Mercury is the ruler, and then we have the moon opposing Mercury. So a lot of activity. And when we're relying on the communication and information function of the planet, and the planet is going retrograde, I expect there would have been, because we're on the 27th now, but the influence is still there, but it was mainly on the 25th, 26th that we were having this aspect from the moon to Mercury retrograde and Mars and being out of bounds, the planet Mars is being out of bounds, I would say, would be very triggering to certain people in terms of anger. It would be difficult to hold the anger back and hold the communication back. So for some people, um, very heated, passionate communications, some anger and being triggered. I would say mostly verbal and argumentative, just given the Mercury and Gemini stuff going on. But with the square to Neptune, there's a fog. Not everything's clear. There's a lot of projection. So let's say a person is angry about something, and then somebody says something, but the anger is already there. It's very easy to interpret that person as being antagonistic or triggering or um, being that thing or modeling that thing that the other person is angry about. So, like, if you're angry about, I don't know, politics, right? And you're on one side and the other person comes in and says something and it sounds like they're on the opposite side, the side that you're pissed off at. Um, you're likely to be triggered because all you're going to hear is that rhetoric that sounds like the opposing side. So it doesn't matter what that person says. So, the same thing. Like if someone is reacting very strongly, angrily or passionately towards you and you don't get it, just know that it is the Mercury retrograde, Mars out of bounds, square to Neptune, and the Gemini moon. So if that happened to you over the last couple of days, don't try to understand it. Just know that probably, whatever was being said was just not, it was being interpreted through a filter. Okay. And somebody's ish was getting projected. That's all. But in terms of travel and the Mercury retrograde, because we do look at things being a little bit difficult sometimes with travel with Mercury retrograde. I would have expected a lot of cancellations and delays, especially with foreign, like out of country, worldwide travel, weather, because that's Mercury, and Mercury retrograde can bring difficult weather conditions. And I know for a fact that in Europe, specifically flights to the UK and London, even trains were being canceled. A ton of flights were canceled, a lot of transportation issues, and that's due to weather stuff. Although there were people on Twitter saying otherwise and saying that, oh, the UK is going into a lockdown and, that the whole country is shut down and all transportation and the roads in and out. Eh, that's the other part of this Mercury retrograde square to Neptune is that with Mars out of bounds, is that people take things to the extreme and there is the potential for deception or just not seeing things clearly and the I mean just the potential for being deceived or misled. um and I saw a lot of things going way, way, way too far into the conspiratorial realm. And it just reminded me because I've been watching things for a long time and this was just the kind of energy where um everybody's fears and worst case scenarios and conspiratorial type narratives were just off the charts, you know? I mean, we get that. Like people toss things around, like, you know, so and so is a clone, or that, you know, that was a CGI. Well, it's not CGI anymore, it's AI image. And, you know, so there's a lot of like feces being flung, and it's interesting. But with this energy, and this will last all week, really be careful because this is like, you know, I saw a lot of I don't know, fishing or you know, I mean, this is just like the kind of thing where like scammers and hackers and I have never had so many weirdo accounts follow me on Twitter. Like I screen everybody and I look to see, first of all, you know, is this a new account? Do we have any mutuals? Is there porn on their timeline? Oh, I had so many porn sites. Ew. Porn accounts following me on Twitter. It's so gross. But it's just that kind of energy. So, you know, you just wanna like just be extra careful. Um, and again, with the travel, we had a lot of fog here. I love the fog. It's so beautiful. When the fog rolled in, I was like, yeah, Mercury square Neptune. That's what I was talking about the whole time. But it's a mental fog too, because I'll tell you, over the last couple of days, I was just like, my brain is just not working. So, like, yeah. I mean, I really wanted to get my, what do you call it? My forecast out. But like since the 25th, 26th, I was just like foggy brain, unmotivated. That's another Mars square Neptune. Lack of energy, foggy brain, unmotivated, indecisive, all of the above. Yes. And well, I mean, we have a sextile, had a sextile on the 25th with um, Venus and Neptune. Like that's very beautiful. Venus, Neptune. But even Venus, Neptune could be wearing rose-colored glasses. Um, but Venus, Neptune also is like very forgiving, very spiritual, this was very tapped in psychically. So over the last couple of days, people could have been very tapped into the underlying vibe, you know, and picking things up psychically. However, the Mercury retrograde square to Neptune, and then the Mars square to Neptune, that's our filter, right? So if your filter isn't clean and you're not seeing things clearly, that could be um, causing people to take action on the wrong information. So that pretty much sums up the last couple of days. Taking action on wrong information. So my advice would be if there's something that you're picking up on over the last couple of days, to just sit and wait and watch and see how other people are reacting. Contemplate your moves carefully this week. Um, of course, if you have to do something, you have to do it, but just calculate the risk and calculate for miscalculations. allow for, have a plan B. Um, and that is the best advice I can give at this time. If you can wait till Mercury goes direct on January 1st, and even then give it a week and or so, like a week to 2 weeks to really get a clearer picture. If you're waiting for information, it may take a little bit. It may take until, the first week of January to really find out where things are going. So just know that it's not that clear right now. Might be a little bit unclear. Okay, so that kind of sums up the energy uh, for those 2 days. But then let's see, the 26th yesterday was the full moon, and that's the peak of the energy. The moon in Cancer opposed the sun in Capricorn. So Cancer and Capricorn are the mother and father energies, the home and the family. In Cancer, opposing the sun in Capricorn, which is the outer world, the, you know, public sphere, work versus home. Um, let's see, the, Capricorn is like the authority figure, the father, the boss, the government, management, leaders, that type of thing. And, the full moon at about, 5 degrees of Cancer is making a sextile to Jupiter, which is still retrograde, which will be going direct by the end of December. That's a pretty positive aspect. Moon sextile to Jupiter, very positive and optimistic. So there could have been, just a real feeling, positive feeling of security, family, abundance, and good outlook for the future. Just before the full moon, the moon in Cancer was trine to Saturn. And Saturn is a very grounding, stabilizing, mature sort of an energy. So the feeling would be growing towards creating stability, abundance, and towards physical resources, the future, making good, solid decisions, having integrity. And overall, I like the energy for this full moon, which was yesterday, last night. If you were on the East Coast, about 7:30 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. on the West Coast of the United States. And yeah, I like those aspects. I really do. Um, what else is going on? Since we had the sun go into Capricorn on the, was it the 22nd? Yeah. On the 22nd, we had Mercury retrograde make a conjunction to the sun entering Capricorn, and then immediately the sun and Mercury retrograde make a sextile to Saturn. So that's a very positive thing. Like Saturn definitely brings a serious vibe, but it's stable. It's, like I said, mature integrity. Also, Saturn in Pisces is trying to put up some kind of boundary, like what the parameters are. So, this could be, getting clarity on a situation so that we know how to conduct ourselves, so that we know what's coming, so that we can kind of get a handle on what direction we see things going, so that we know what steps to take. And, that was a very good aspect. That was very positive, I felt. And so into the 27th, where we are today, we still have the moon in Cancer. The moon squares to Chiron. So, moon in Cancer to Chiron in Aries. There can be a little bit of a difficulty with that aspect, in the sense that for some people, old wounds could be triggered. Um, there could be hurt feelings, but it could just be that we could be feeling some type of way about our, insecurities, and um, maybe not feeling safe, not feeling supported. That's possible. Um, because the Cancer moon is a very sensitive moon. And what I was talking about before about the moon being out of bounds, the moon is very far out of bounds. Well, it's in Cancer. So for the full moon, the moon was at like 28 degrees north. North declination means you're going to see the planet very high in the sky. And so north is very, I would say it's very yang, it's very external. So when the moon is in out of bounds north declination, it is externalizing the feelings, the emotion. And so what we see with people, with the collective and society, is a lot of feelings being expressed, publicly, externally, demonstrative. That's an out of bounds moon in the north declination. The south declination, I see also north being future oriented. I see south declination when it's out of bounds to the south. It's more internal, processing things from the past. It tends to be more personal, and people could react a little bit more introverted. But the processing that's going on is more personal and internal, and it is connected to the past. So, that being said, the 26th and the 27th, the moon is out of bounds in its home sign of Cancer. That's the sign that the moon rules. So we would expect that it would be the moon would be functioning even more. Like there's a lot more emphasis. Home, family, security, mothers, right? Cancer can be a very self-protective, sensitive sign, and it does lash out when its feelings are hurt, let's say. Or in this case, someone feeling very sentimental, clinging to the past. Uh, it is very, very personal, and being out of bounds, it's more likely that someone is going to act out of how they're feeling, express how they're feeling, because the emotion is so overwhelming that they can't help it. And So moon square to Chiron. Chiron is a centaur in mythology, and this asteroid does represent healing and wounding. It also is related to the mind-body connection and like holistic healing and mentorship. It's kind of like a guru, shaman type archetype. And being in Aries, so I would expect this to be like identity crisis, somebody who or issues, let's say, relating to finding one's identity and selfhood and right to exist and be who you are and masculinity because it's Aries. All of these Aries archetypal energies are being processed through Chiron, which is intending to heal, right? So, and healing the masculine archetype. No, Aries is masculine, right? Ruled by Mars. Men are from Mars. And then the moon is the feminine, so it's yin and Aries is yang. And Chiron is trying to heal the yang, the masculine, and everything having to do with Aries that deals with how we assert ourselves, how we take action, uh, our anger, aggression, like the positive and the negative side of Aries, right? So being assertive is one thing and being aggressive is another. So it's all of these things. And so there could be some emotional triggering today. Certainly the actions that would be taken possibly could come out of a place of wounding or with a potential for healing. So it's not positive or negative. We see squares as being sometimes difficult, but they push us to action. They create a tension that causes an action, like an action and a reaction. So uh, let's, you know, take some kind of action towards healing and expressing our emotions, perhaps with sensitivity towards both sides of the equation. Um, oh, I was going to share my screen and I keep forgetting to do that. Let me do that now. But that's okay. I was really just catching us up to where we are today as I am recording. I'm sorry. Yeah, recording. Am I recording? Oh my God. I hope yeah, I did remember. So many things to like coordinate here. Yes, I am recording. Phew. All right. So here we are with the chart on the 27th, Wednesday, the one day. And we have, like I was saying, here are the moon in uh, Cancer, 13, 14 degrees, as we are, well, this chart shows around noon and square to Chiron. So that square is not exact yet. It takes the moon about an hour to go, let's see now, 2 hours to move 1 degree. So 13, 15, 2 degrees. So let's say in about 4 hours, the moon will be exact square to Chiron. And that's pretty much the only aspect that's happening today on Wednesday until later, when the moon will sextile to Uranus here, which is retrograde at 19 degrees of Taurus. So I see this as a positive emotional change. Uranus is bringing sudden changes, sparks in inspiration, unexpected changes, and things relating to technology, because that's Uranus, but friendships also, um, as we are dealing with the planetary ruler of Aquarius. So, oh, it's overall can be positive changes to the home environment as we're dealing with the moon in Cancer and um, that sextile to Uranus. And then we will have the moon square to the nodes of fate, 21 degrees of Aries, Libra. When the moon gets to 21 degrees of Cancer, it squares the nodes. So because it's the moon, it's a fast moving influence. It's more or less on an emotional level and what's being expressed externally in terms of how we feel and dealing with home, family, security. And this does relate to sentiment on a national level. The moon squaring the nodes is a sort of a tipping point, right? So we reached a peak with the full moon. Now the moon is waning. We're processing, we're integrating. The waning moon is disseminating. So spreading, disseminating the energy, the information, the feeling is spreading. And then we're turning a corner. So the 28th, earlier on the 28th, that's the squaring of the nodes. And then the moon will start to oppose Pluto and trine Neptune. Trining Neptune is, so if Neptune was all of the influence that we saw on the 25th and the 26th of the lies, the deception, the lack of clarity, the fog, um, the actions and the information, because the the Mercury retrograde and Mars on the 27th. I don't think I really covered that. Right. So going back to the 27th, I'm sorry. Mercury and Mars will be making their exact conjunction and square to Neptune. So there is actions being taken and things being said, information coming that may not be completely accurate. Okay, so we need to watch that. Also, we need to watch one thing that I really wanted to mention is, especially with um, Venus in Scorpio, making a trine to Neptune in Pisces, that is drugs and alcohol. Be careful driving, transportation, travel. The issues also will be coming from people who are impaired. Mercury Mars squaring to Neptune, impairment. Like that falls under that Pisces delusion kind of not being able to function because of impairment. Okay, so this is the most intense part of the month. And really, this week is today, the 27th into the 28th. So it's starting really today. Um, that's also my travel warning is that people can be very distracted. They can be impaired. They can be overly carried away with emotion. So the things are going to intensify. Now, let's see where Mars is at because Mars is out of bounds. Mars just went out of bounds over the last couple of days. It started maybe the end of last week here. So I look at about 23 degrees, 23 and a half. So it's like 23 degrees and let's say 30 minutes. That's where I really start to look at a planet as being out of bounds. And Mars is at 23 degrees south, 48 minutes. So it is out of bounds now. So mucho caution on the 27th going forward until I have to check, but I think it is mid-January. Let me just say, because this is important, guys. You're going to want to like keep a check on your anger, like don't get carried away and just stay away from unhinged, like crazy people. But be careful because this can make people more accident prone. There is more of a tendency towards anger, accidents, and the like. I'm gonna go, yeah, well, it goes all the way into the third week of January. Really, we get to January around the 21st, 22nd. Let's give it till the 25th, 26th, really. And then we're dealing with a full moon in Leo, which will be out of bounds. Uh, and that'll square to Jupiter, the full moon. Eh, that really looks like an anxious, antsy full moon. Perhaps some overblown type stuff still. Moon is out of bounds. Mars, yeah, I'm still gonna consider that to be out of bounds. And it is gonna square Chiron. Mars, I'm sorry. I consider Mars still to be out of bounds. So learn how to work with this energy. And it is southern declination. So let's deal with the past. Let's deal with the internalized, repressed anger with the south declination. That's going to be my assessment. But you let me know, especially you people who have Mars planets, I mean, placements, Mars in Sagittarius, Mars in fire signs, especially Mars ruled signs. That would be not just Aries, but Scorpio. Let me know how you guys are dealing with this Mars out of bounds. So, of course, I give the warnings because that's the first thing that I see. Worst case scenario, I work back from there. That's my philosophy. But I mean, let's talk about the positive. Like this could be very, very motivating, especially for people who maybe don't have Mars in a placement that's very positive or functional or hard to tap into, um, or you don't have a lot of fire placements, this could be very motivating for people. I'm thinking, in the northern hemisphere where it's winter, it tends to be kind of a sluggish time. This could be, really motivating to help people to get moving, to get exercising, to um, get motivated about learning, you know, um, maybe traveling. It's not bad for everyone. I mean, I talked about the issues that you can possibly be having with travel, but it could be very inspiring for people and who are taking trips worldwide. That's Sagittarius. That's out of your local environment, the opposite of Gemini. Gemini is short trips, neighborhood, short distance travel, the information coming to you from within, your close environment, neighborhood, that kind of thing. And Sagittarius, that's global, that's outside of your own culture, which is a wonderful thing. You can learn so much. Get out of your environment. So this is also Mars out of bounds in Sagittarius with Mercury retrograde, talking to people from the past, understanding things about what's going on around the world in other cultures. This is bringing a higher perspective, and Mercury retrograde always brings out information that we didn't know, like exposing things and revealing things that we didn't know. Also, getting a fresh perspective and new understanding about things from the past. Mercury retrograde, redoing, revisiting, reanalyzing. This is really wonderful, actually. So I gave you all the cautions, but now I'm giving you what could be really um, beneficial during this time, especially for people who want to go back to school, who want to pursue an avenue of study. This is a great time to learn because with this energy and these planetary aspects, uh, there's an opportunity to learn, especially when we're dealing with something that relates to foreign cultures, travel, religion, philosophy, looking at people's beliefs and ideologies and looking at our own. This square to Neptune is really drudging up our beliefs, our philosophies, our religions on this planet, and they're all up for review. Everything is up for review because we are getting information, new information, things that we didn't know before, because that's how our belief systems structures are formed based on information and belief. But then we get new information which can help reshape our beliefs. So that's what's going on with a lot of this Mercury retrograde. And let me tell you, the things that I have been seeing when it comes to what I see as the core of Sagittarius and Pisces has a lot to do with religion and the institutions around religion, our structures that we build up um, around our faiths and our beliefs. And uh, what we believe about these institutions and the people who lead them. Oh my God. So people are really evaluating, looking at the past, looking at the family and the generational karma as we're dealing with the full moon in Cancer, with the sun in Capricorn. And that does deal with family lineage. And perhaps looking at families' involvement in structures of higher learning and also religious institutions, and maybe reevaluating some things or things coming to light regarding family, regarding all of these things, beliefs, religion. Um, things are changing. This is the beginning that I see of a big change coming with religion. You know, Neptune has been in Pisces, which rules Pisces, but that's Pisces is spirituality and our connectedness, our interconnectedness with one another and the collective consciousness, but it relates to God or what we perceive as God and spirituality as opposed to just the systems and institutions around religion, which is man's way of interpreting um, and relating to God and the divine. Okay, that's Pisces. Pisces is unfathomable. So it is the unfathomable, unknowable aspect of God versus the interpretation that we develop as a human with a limited scope of consciousness and knowledge. So we are getting more knowledge because our consciousness is expanding. And as we get more knowledge, we have more expansion, right? We are definitely, we definitely have a lot more information coming that will reshape our beliefs and our institutions and um, especially as it has to do with religion and spirituality. And this is just the beginning. So yes, Pisces and Neptune and Pisces. Neptune, Neptune is the planet that rules Pisces, is very strong in Pisces. So we have had a lot of emphasis on the Piscean age, right? And Pisces is connected to Christianity because it's the fish. It is the age of Pisces and Christianity. Now, Neptune is at 25 degrees of Pisces. And so it only has 5 more degrees to go until it gets out of Pisces. We have to deal with and dredge up and process all of the Pisces stuff before Neptune goes into Aries and starts something completely new, because that's the beginning of the zodiac, right? So this is what we're dealing with for the last 5 degrees of Pisces. And I'm not really sure when Neptune goes into Aries, but I'm going to check that out. And also, don't forget, we have Saturn, the planet of tests and limitations. Um, it is really testing our faith and testing our institutions of religion and faith-based things. So a lot of that is going on over this holiday season. Um, yeah, I was gonna look and see when Neptune goes. It's a while. Like you got a while. So just, let's just deal with what we've got right now. And what else with Wednesday? Um, Other positive aspects, we have the sun. It's already sextile to Saturn, very good, stabilizing. Trines to Jupiter, also very positive. New beginnings coming when Jupiter goes direct at the beginning of January, the 1st of January. No, actually, no. It's the 30th into the 31st. So that is positive. It's stabilizing. It's Earth to Earth, Capricorn to Taurus. It's very good. And that's it for Wednesday. Okay, let's go to Thursday the 28th. Kind of talked about that. The moon square to the nodes. The moon will make a trine to Venus. Okay, that's very positive. Um, it's pretty much a grand trine almost in water with moon in Cancer, Neptune in Pisces, and Venus in Scorpio. Uh, we are very, very much in tune to our relationships on an emotional level. So dreams also could be very prominent. That's definitely something that Neptune and Pisces are connected to. So we could have very active dreams. What else is going on here? Yeah, so there's that opposition of the moon later in the day to Pluto. The moon in Cancer is concerned with safety and home, and Pluto is bringing up some fear, perhaps. Also, this could bring up obsession, jealousy. That's Pluto. But the moon is concerned with keeping itself safe. And so, on an emotional level, we could have some intense feelings, especially after that trine to Venus. There is maybe dealing with some emotional obsession and attachment, also with addictions, could be dealing with that too. All right, so the 28th, sorry, the 28th is Thursday. It's a 2-day. Moving to Friday, it's 3-day, the 29th. This is when Mars is exactly square to Neptune. Mars is also our energy, and Neptune kind of drains it and dissipates it. So we could feel like our actions are just, the things we're trying to upon push forward aren't going anywhere. They're not going where we want them to go. We have a lack of clarity, but maybe act anyway. And it's not necessarily the time for that. This is an indecisive energy too. So we could be waiting on some kind of action. It's just not coming. Um, it's really best to wait. Also, the moon in Leo is making an inconjunct to the sun. It's a little bit of a dispersive energy when it comes to like our physical vitality. The moon might feel very inspired in Leo, but the sun is kind of tired in Capricorn. That could be, this can have to do with reputation of people in, in positions of power, public um, authority, and this can be a reversal of fortune for some people. The moon is square to Jupiter, so it can mean a sort of a shuffling of players on the board in terms of power shifts. And the moon isn't really making any other aspects, really. It will trine to Chiron, and that's pretty positive. In conjunct prior to this, when the moon goes into Leo, it would make in conjunct to Saturn. Saturn is definitely, well, it is older figures and older power type structure dynamics and kind of the passing away of the old guard. So there could be some difficulty with regard to that. Saturn also rules Capricorn, and where the sun is in Capricorn, it's definitely taking energy away from the old guard or the old structure. Um, People in authority and power that really need to step down. There could be that, but difficulty in general, um, where there's a lack of integrity, because the sun in Capricorn is testing integrity. And if you'll notice here, Venus is still in Scorpio, but it's just about to go into Sagittarius. And when it does, it's going to square to Saturn. So that can be issues, changes in management, in relationships, in financial situations, and the like. So, not too much going on the 29th. And again, we're in between the holidays, so that's always a little bit of a challenge. But it just seems like there's a lot of pieces being rearranged behind the scenes. We may not hear about it until Mercury goes direct, but changes are happening and they are positive and they are lining up for the future. Okay, so the 29th, yeah, the moon really isn't making great aspects. I mean, it squares to Jupiter, and that's maybe overdoing it, overextending oneself. It's not a bad aspect per se, but um, maybe feeling a little tired because it's just too much. Jupiter expands. Jupiter is a lot, right? Maybe it is too much, overly like emotionally exhausted. Is this moon in conjunct to the sun? The sun and the moon have a lot to do with our vitality. And I think that the full moon, although it brought abundance of, you know, feeling of abundance with Jupiter, now perhaps we're wondering if we didn't bite off more than we could chew, or um, feeling a little bit like we want to do more and there's a lot going on, but perhaps we're feeling the tired now. All right, so that was the 29th, right? Did I mention it's a 3-day? But be careful with that Mars square to Neptune. Um, I'm still not completely, I'm not going to back off of my warnings and my cautions because this energy really does go all week. However, the moon is not aspecting to the Mercury retrograde the and Mars squaring to Neptune. Um, but the 29th doesn't look like that particular energy is triggered. So whatever I'm talking about, like with the craziness, the attacks, the fighting, the accidents, the issues with travel, uh, war, right? When we're talking about attacks, I mean, personal attacks, public attacks, and the issues of war and um, fighting, aggression. And one of the things that I was seeing with this aspect with Mars, Mercury, square to Neptune, Mars out of bounds, in terms of war and attack, this is ships. Mercury and Mars, with Mars out of bounds, explosions, attacks. And Mars has to do with weaponry. And then square to Neptune, that's the sea. So I was looking at this and thinking, okay, transportation, Mercury, retrograde, like things are like really, really wonky. And also the information that we're getting regarding what is going on internationally. Sagittarius is international. Mars is war, weapons of war, attacks. Mars is also vehicles because Mars rules metals. Mercury is vehicles of transportation, foreign travel, worldwide events, politics. That's all Sagittarius stuff. And Neptune in Pisces, that's the sea, overseas, on the seas, vehicles that traverse the seas, over the seas, flying over the seas, and sailing over the seas. I'm also seeing, because of the degrees of Sagittarius, these degrees are part of the constellation of Scorpio, specifically located, the stars are located in the tail of the scorpion. And that has to do with poisons. And in ancient astrology, it was known that the sign of Scorpio, the constellation, they didn't look at zodiacal signs, they looked at the constellation. The constellation of Scorpio was known to preside over arms. Arms are the weapons of war. We make them out of metal, pretty much, right? I mean, there are other weapons. It covers weapons in general, but here we're dealing with Mercury and Mars. That's transportation. That's also information. So we are talking about propaganda as a weapon of war. And Mars, vehicles, bombs, guns, knives, um, arrows. Okay. So it's all of these things. And we're dealing with the seas, Neptune, right? So that's literal. That's already happened. I mean, I have the advantage of looking at this in retrospect. We've already seen that. There was already a ship, I guess, in Ukraine that was bombed. However, we're looking at Mercury square to Neptune. Not all the information that we're getting at this time is accurate. Some of it is not accurate. Some of it is purposefully misleading, and some of it is propaganda. So it's up to you to decide and filter the information that you're getting. But I suggest that everyone look at all the information that we're getting at this time and just watch and see how the things play out, because there will be more information coming as soon as Mercury goes direct, when Mars is not square to Neptune, and Mercury goes direct on January 1st. So we're going to get, we're going to get information all the way into the first week of January that will refute what is being told to us right now, or what we see right now. Is it live or is it Memorex? Is it real or is it AI? Is it true or is it propaganda? You need to look at everything this way. When it comes to your personal life, the decisions and the information that you have, the decisions that you're making, you may feel differently when Mercury goes direct and squares to Neptune again, because it will. All right, so let's say you have completely the wrong information right now. Maybe you're being lied to, maybe you're being scammed, maybe you're being catfished, maybe you're being propagandized. Okay. I'm going to say, okay, so Mercury goes direct January 1st. It will be around January 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. The 9th is a big day, January 9th, because the moon will be conjunct Mercury, now direct, but still in shadow, square to Neptune. So if you bought the first lie that they were selling, you'll likely maybe buy the second lie that they're selling on January 9th, right? But then you could also be looking at everything and taking it with a grain of salt and waiting and watching. So if you caught the lie this week, the truth could be coming out by the 9th. The truth could be being exposed about the lies being told now. Okay. But, let's say somebody is delusional and they are not living in truth and are receptive to the lie. By the 9th, they would be caught hook, line, and sinker. So the 9th is definitely a day to watch with the moon almost new on Capricorn. See here with the Mercury here, there's important news coming out that will reveal the lies and deception. Mercury is square to Neptune, but there will be more lies, so get ready. There's more of an opportunity to be deceived. But this is going to continue the discussion that is happening right now around faith-based institutions, religion, and also the leaders, because the sun will be making a trine to Uranus, so there's a big change coming. So expect that. So just to give you a perspective, the clarity, it's coming, but right now it's maybe not the time to make the decisions. All right, so Thursday, Friday, the 29th is the 3rd. You know how I love my 3, 6, 9 days. The moon is still out of bounds. starting to come back down. The emotions cooling down a little bit, but the sun and Mars are at 23 degrees south of declination. So that is can be very motivating, but it can be very ego driven because Pluto is also at 23 degrees southerly declination. So there is, I would say, an underlying power grab going on here. Pluto, Sun, Mars, taking action, taking power back, and probably facing some fears, but the Mars will give it some bravery or being pushed into a position where you have to take action and you have to face your fears. And it can be a little scary, but it'll be very transformative. And Venus finally is going into Sagittarius. So by the 30th, Venus is in Sag. So our attitude towards finances and relationships is moving towards, it's in Sagittarius, so it's moving towards looking at things on more of a global perspective, looking at foreign cultures and relations, foreign relations, because that's Sagittarius. But it is about what we are learning and it's starting a new adventure. Venus is in Sag is very fiery and very inspired. And in terms of Venus as like cuisine and food and fashion, I'm going to say it's an international flavor. I have Venus in Sag. I love all kinds of international foods. The only thing I don't eat is tripe. But I love foreign type cuisines. Anyway, um, travel to see people may be restricted because what we do have coming is a Venus Saturn square. So that represents obstacles, difficulties, restrictions in regard to relationships, finances, and travel, foreign travel too, um, because it is Sagittarius. So let's see what comes up with that. I'm going to say also that there is difficulty because of what is happening in finance on a global scale and the financial system and the money supply. Um, I think that we're going to see with banks probably more difficulty. I'm not an expert on this. I do kind of understand it, but it's hard for me to articulate it. And so it could be also on a personal level, tightening one's belt, maybe looking at what is really necessary to spend on and what is not, and what is coming in terms of upcoming payments, bills, inflation, a change in the situation, perhaps. The moon is in Leo and it is squaring to Uranus in Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So we are talking about money and finance. And as the moon squared to Jupiter on the 29th, Jupiter does have to do with laws, legal issues. So I'm going to say that you should watch to see if there are any laws, regulations being proposed or passed in terms of regulating the financial industry. And on the 30th, especially, perhaps cryptocurrency, digital currency, and the use of technology as it relates to the financial system and exchange, cross-border payments, you know, Uranus is in Taurus, so it's also dealing with physical assets, right? So currency and also like precious metals, gold and silver. So we are dealing with digital as well as tangible assets. And I mean, that would include like gold-backed crypto coins, stuff like that, especially with the moon in Leo, and Leo rules gold, the moon rules silver, just FYI. And it is square to Uranus. So this could be where we are feeling or talking about or expecting inflation, new laws, and dealing with foreign exchange, foreign currency, the world, the globe, on a global level, right? And there is a lot of focus on that. Um, and Uranus represents the future and changes and, you know, technology and asset-backed securities, that kind of thing. So that's something to watch. But I mean, the moon in Leo on a, personally is very open, warm-hearted, generous, and squaring to Uranus, we could be meeting new people and dealing with people who are from outside of our culture or um, communicating, with people that have different beliefs than we do, or maybe the same beliefs. Like maybe we felt isolated and we felt like nobody really, we didn't connect with people on, maybe a religious or philosophical level, but then we meet people, we connect with people because the moon is making a trine to Mercury. I would say that this is probably good for transportation, but there could still be instability and changes with the moon square to Uranus. But the the moon is making a positive aspect to Mercury, so that could be, and it's moving away from the square to Neptune, and so is Mars. So um that could be positive developments. And the moon is making a sextile and trine to the nodes of fate. Overall, I see this as probably being pretty positive or a window of opportunity, perhaps, to get something done before before Venus makes that square to Saturn. Venus square to Saturn can also be being put at a crossroads or forced to commit to something. Because Saturn is commitment and it is long term, and Venus is relationships. So having to make a decision and commit to something, um, or to have our boundaries tested, testing of our commitment and our faith, Venus and Sag. All right, so that's the 30th. That's a 4-day. And overall, the moon aspects to Mercury and Mars kind of looks pretty brave and inspirational and inspiring. I kind of really like this day a lot for being, I wouldn't say we're starting new things because it's the waning moon, but maybe it's something that began with the waxing moon. And now we're in a new environment. There's a lot of change, but it's very positive. I like it. It's not too bad. If you have to travel, I would say it's probably a good time. Although be prepared to make adjustments because moon square to Uranus, but it'll probably only last a few hours. Like maybe you suddenly have an opportunity to travel or to connect with people, and um, it is unexpected and it's good, it's positive. So the 30th into the 31st. Also, I just feel like there's just a lot of things coming out in regard to like politics and global stuff that would just be very interesting. But I like the moon in Leo. It was making pretty good aspects. So the 31st, that's New Year's Eve. That's a 5 day. Fives are kind of chaotic and shifty changey, but the moon is in Virgo for most of the day. I see the excitement sort of like tempering down a little bit. The moon square to Venus could be, moon in Virgo is a bit analytical and it's really practical and kind of grounded, but it can be very judgmental. So there could be criticism of people, other people regarding their beliefs and judging, but discerning is a good thing. And just with the moon square to Venus, I don't know, it could feel like it's just not comfortable because, you know, things are not lining up to our expectations, or we are also dealing with the moon making an opposition to Saturn, like, I don't know if I want to commit to this because does it align with my values, or is that person, they're not good enough, or they don't believe the way I do, and that could be part of this energy too. And Virgo is a little persnickety. Venus wants to embrace all beliefs and cultures, and it wants to learn, but it wants to be free to explore. But there is this square to Saturn, which is like, well, if I commit to this, then I don't know. I might be kind of stuck, and I don't know. Am I missing what else is out there? And then this could be kind of fault finding with someone because they're not good enough. But the moon does make a trine to Jupiter, which is pretty good, and um, all pretty much all Jupiter aspects most of the time are pretty fortunate, and the moon will make also a trine to the sun. So that is favoring the Capricorn, practical, stability, long-term, mature aspect. And this is a good day if you really need to get organized and be practical and focus on the details and really want to be of service, be help, this is very favorable for people in the uh service industry, people who are like, first responders. There's a lot of focus on um being willing to help out and to serve and to bring some wisdom and maturity and to deal with people who perhaps are different from us and learning from that. And, but in general, probably a focus, a big focus on people in the service industry, first responders, workers, that's the Virgo energy, and management, that's the Capricorn, and the resources. Jupiter has gone direct. That's the other thing. So it's not a bad thing. I think it's pretty positive, especially with the moon in a positive aspect and the sun also. And it can be positive for funding, resources, financing, perhaps. Um, but still, with the Venus square to Saturn, it could be bringing to light um, the lack of or restriction of resources also. So let's see what else is going on. The Mercury's almost stationing. It's usually the day of the station, a day before and a day after, that is the most interesting and intense. And when we get the news or the event happens, there's usually something around those days. So this is the day before the station of Mercury. So by January 1st, when Mercury does station, it's later in the day, we are going to have a moon square to Mercury retrograde as it's stationary retrograde. So I would look for something from the 1st to the 2nd that would bring information, news, communication regarding, could be health, transportation. I'm saying health because the moon is in Virgo. Mercury is a co-ruler of Virgo. There is something that has been floating around and being talked about in regard to health. I'll just leave it at that. And so there could be information and details coming out first into the 2nd regarding health and on an international level, I'm going to say something that would affect, not just the local environment, but really the world at large, because that's Sagittarius, and weapons. And we know it can be used as a weapon also. I won't detail that, but there is information already being floated out there. So I would look for that on the station of Mercury and as the moon, also the 2nd. That's when the moon is going to oppose Neptune. Neptune is the delusion, the lies, the propaganda. And Mercury, I'm sorry, Virgo is about the details. It's also about health. The moon is in Virgo. It does square to the Mercury retrograde, station to go direct. So over this time period, watch to see, because it is about the details, the facts, the truth versus the inaccuracy. So I would expect something on that level, on an international level, and regarding also everything that I talked about before, the religion, the philosophy, the institutions of religion, the leaders, because whatever is coming out in the beginning of January, in the first few days, will affect, it will go to affect the leadership. This is politics too. All right, so it's all of these things. It's everything that deals with the world at large and government within your own countries. And the moon will square to the sun. This is the what's called the last quarter square. So when the moon gets to 12, 13 degrees of Libra over the course of the day on the 3rd. So let's see, 6, 8, 9. So now in 2024, in January, whatever the day number is, that's going to be the number of the day, because it will reduce to a 3 on January 3rd, because 2024 is an 8, January is a 1, that's a 9, plus 3 is reducing to a 3. So this is a 3-day. We want to watch what happens from the 1st to the 3rd. Be aware of what's going on, because it will affect people in power, positions of leadership, because this is the sun in Capricorn, which is the sign of leadership, management, the old guard, and the structure of our government. And the waning moon, the last quarter square. This should be very interesting. So I guess that's where I'll leave it. Ending on the 31st, going into January 1st, 2nd, 3rd. And I think that's all I want to say. Yep. Something around the 31st, though, is going to restrict travel, I think, movement, also the movement of money. So take that however you want. And it could be restriction of travel internationally, or that there is a focus or talk about how we move from one place to another around the globe, and how health is involved. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? I don't have to say it. All right, so that's it. Happy New Year. Feliz Año Nuevo. Auld Lang Syne. And the like. Thank you guys for sitting it out. I know I'm still long, I'm still wordy, but I hope it's worth it. I don't know. You tell me. I love feedback from people. So if you would please like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell if you want to be notified when I have a new video or when I go live. And I do appreciate all of that, because you're helping. You're helping. The views have been really good. I'm like really happy. Actually, my last upload last week, it doesn't sound like much, but I think it got like 50 views, something like that. It's not a lot, but I don't look at numbers. I look at increase. I look at where I am today versus where I was before. So I'm growing, and that's good. I'm really happy about that. And I appreciate everyone who listens to the show. And those of you who have booked readings, thank you so much. I appreciate your trust in me to read your chart. And I always know that the people that get the message that I'm bringing out, they feel connected to me. Those are the people that are going to book readings with me, because I mean, I know for myself that I, especially when you don't have a lot of money to spend, um, you don't want to waste it on somebody who you don't feel is going to give you the information that you need to hear. And we tend to connect with people who are similar to us in our views and our um, belief system. So there you go. I I know that my followers and the people who book with me are, you know, I always feel like they're kindred spirits. I've met, I have friends that, became, they were clients first and now they're friends. And I just, I just think that's a really wonderful thing. Anyway, so like, I do appreciate you guys. But um, I do want to ask people for more feedback, make comments on the videos, ask questions. Tell me what you guys are going through. Tell me how your Mercury retrograde has been, what you've observed. Together we can figure this whole thing out. Because I'm just going through the aspects and I'm throwing out there like what all the possibilities that come to mind to me based on what I'm observing. But other people are observing other things. So we all have pieces to the puzzle. We all have something to contribute. And I value your contribution. Plus, I want to know that you're out there. Like I feel like I'm like sometimes screaming into a vacuum and a void, and I don't know who's listening. So speak up, connect, be part of the conversation because your voice is important. And I want to know what you're thinking. So, with that said, you can come hang out with me on Twitter. I don't have but 3 friends that I really interact with, but they are good and solid friendships, and we go back a long ways. We get one another, but it's usually me preaching to the choir. But anyway, if you want to see my news updates, and I like to tweet things that are demonstrating how the astrology is playing out, like how things are playing out, and examples of the aspects that I've been talking about. So if you like to follow along with that, I like to highlight strange news and trends that I've been watching. So if you're on Twitter, please look for me, Astro Lunatic. Also, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Rumble channel. Go and subscribe, and you can subscribe to my Substack newsletter. Go to Substack. I'm sorry, astrolunatic.substack.com. Also, find the link in the description box here for my Gilded channel. And you can also contact me if you're interested in a reading. You can email me at astrolunatic@gmail.com or hit me up on the Astro Lunatic hotline at 914-222-1231. Text me, call me, leave a message, hit me up, get at me. All right, you guys, I'm out of here. Hope everyone has a wonderful week and a happy new year. And as always, ciao for now.